I am James Erskine. I'm the writer and director of The End of the Storm. And, I'm really excited to be talking to you today and telling you a little bit more about how the film was made and the ideas behind it.
It was a long, long storm. Great people tried it.
They blow Liverpool right out of the title picture.
So many people dream about our success. We have to make the next step.
When was the idea for it conceived? Because obviously we kind of go back to the start of the season, right at the very beginning even of Jurgen's time at the club. But when was it decided that this would be put into, a film? Was it once the title was won, once the pandemic hit? Tell us about that process.
Yeah, the first thing was obviously we put a crew in there before Jurgen was there, and we wanted to get that moment and the whole. We've been following for 5 years. No, that's not true. That's not true. No, we came in much later. We came in during the season when it was become evident that Liverpool were going to have a good shout of winning the league, and I'd made a film previously, which is on Amazon, for a series called This Is Football, which followed 3 Liverpool fans, Rwanda Reds, and told the story of the Rwandan genocide through these 3 Liverpool fans and how they'd use the club and the community of the club globally to sort of rebuild their identity and their friendships, and even in many ways replace family members or be stand-in family members. And so that film had happened, and the club had seen it and really liked it, so they had approached us and said, do you think you got an idea to make something about this season and what it means to everybody and to the fans? And we said, okay, well, we'll work up some ideas. And we began talking to them and putting the wheels in progress for the film to happen from just before the pandemic started.
And obviously with the pandemic, it makes it effectively like it's a story of 2 parts, isn't it? It's like a first half of the film is everything's going superb, and then you get this dramatic moment. And what was it like in the terms of how you wanted to portray that?
Yeah, in some senses, the film is a horror film because everything is going as brilliantly as possible, and we layer on how brilliantly it's going and how perfect it is, and then the greater forces of nature intervene and seem to smash the dreams, not just of one individual player or a group of players or even the club, but a worldwide community of fans who live and breathe for the club, whose daily lives are massively embellished by the success of the club. So it has tropes of a horror film in a way. That's what a football fan's life is like, isn't it? You remember the glory moments, but you also remember the moments of where things didn't quite happen. And I sort of wanted to convey that, so even if you knew less about the club or weren't a Liverpool fan, that you could feel the emotional journey that the fans were going on, and for fans that they could, perhaps capture in a different way, capture the story of the season seen from an outside lens,
There's a scene where Jurgen is celebrating in front of the Kop. It's January, Liverpool are 20 odd points clear at the top of the league, and then that's cut in with news reporting the first cases of the coronavirus. And it's just such a dramatic scene. You couldn't actually write this as a movie. A team that has dominated English football for 20 years, 30 years, and then gone 30 years without winning the league. Everything that's happened with Liverpool, getting so close to winning the league in previous seasons. And then when they're 25 points clear, literally 1-2 games away from winning the title, a pandemic hits, first time in a century. You couldn't write it as a movie.
No, you couldn't. But in some senses, it was inevitable that a pandemic would hit on the season when Liverpool was so close. Things like, the Gerrard slip and other moments that have happened through history. It sort of seemed to be the lot of Liverpool fans to come so close and yet have something snatched away from us. And that's sort of what makes it quite universal, really, is we all feel like there's that moment where something just could have been and it would have changed our lives forever. The sliding doors moment, I suppose. For me, obviously the pandemic becomes a big part of the story, and it adds to that. And from a filmic terms, it really makes the emotion of that feel very real for everybody. But what's really interesting as well is normally in a football film, you have the fans on one side, or football story, and then you have the players in their, in their bubble, in this case a literal bubble, but in their metaphorical bubble on the other side, and sort of never the twain shall meet. But in this season, in this film, whether you're a football player who's getting paid a couple of $100,000 a week, or you are a fan in Rio de Janeiro or Auckland or Detroit, everybody's reduced to the same moment, the sort of incarceration, being trapped at home, having your choices and your expectations and your belief in the future actually taken away. If you're a school kid about to take an exam, you're having that taken away from you. If you're Jordan Henderson, finally looks like you're going to get your hands on the trophy, and that's taken away from you. And I think that's what, in filmic terms, that's what really unifies it. Yeah, absolutely.
Even though I wear the armband, there's so many other ladies throughout the dressing room.
Step it up, you.
I wanted to play for a club that lives and breathes for the fans.
I think Jordan's story is extraordinary. I think Jordan's an extraordinary player and an extraordinary human being. I really wanted you to have the sense of his journey in there, and that actually it's not a world of perfection, it's a world of struggle, and you see the stuff of Jordan as a kid and you think, oh, that Jordan could do that, it's like he looks like, Zidane, or I don't know, he looks like, and I sort of wanted to sort of, build up his importance by showing his struggle, and actually, if you look at statistically, when Jordan plays, the team plays much more successfully than when he doesn't play. He really is that heart of that. And also because, obviously Jurgen's a massive part of the film, and, Jurgen's a massive character, but it's interesting to see him versus someone like Jordan, who's a very different character, but yet Jurgen has brought him on, as a player, but also has made him the captain, trusted him, him as the captain. It's a question to me, somebody from the outside, why Jordan, why not Virgil as the captain? But I think the film expresses why it matters, the emotions. I'm sure Virgil will make a great captain, but that Jordan has the years, the legacy, the pain, and in some way reflects the manager more closely than Virgil, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the questions that I had was, obviously you get access to certain players that speak throughout the film and narrate it effectively. What was the challenges there with it? Obviously, the filming taking place during the pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of challenges. There's two challenges with selecting from the players. The first one is, who do you select and why do you select? And we could have had, 20-second clips with everybody talking, but actually I wanted to make you feel that they were real characters and that you learned a lot about the players. And so actually what we wanted to do is make sure that each of the players that we featured had their moment, and you saw how they impacted on the story, and also how the story impacted on their lives. So we wanted to select a spine from the goalkeeper right the way to the front, so you had a feeling that you were, on a subliminal level, we're capturing the perspective of a defender, a goalkeeper, a midfielder, a attacker, a manager. So you were sort of seeing the pitch in sort of 360. But, the challenges of doing that were quite a lot during COVID. I mean, the players are in a bubble, which we can't burst. And certainly me turning up with a film crew, it wouldn't have been great if I'd sort of turned up and given Sadio Mane COVID. That would have been like pretty bad for lots of reasons. There are a lot more at stake than my film. So, we followed very tight COVID protocols. We actually filmed the majority of those interviews in Austria. We had PPE and that stuff, and we'd been through a process of discussion for a couple of months about how we were going to do it in the way. And we couldn't do those interviews during the season itself because of the Premier League restrictions.
Fasten your seatbelt.
And Salah for Liverpool! Have a little bit of that!
I'm not the smartest person. I'm not a genius, so I cannot do it alone.
O gosto da derrota é amargo. Com certeza a gente quer viver o gosto da vitória.
I want us to be really focused on the things we can have influence.
Crossfield ball, and Mohamed Salah's arriving! Oh, that's beautiful! Mane! Oh, my word! Liverpool all over!
We've been in a position where Liverpool were playing, and they're playing in front of full crowds, week in, week out, getting to play football. And one day, like a beam had shot down from Mars and annihilated all the Liverpool fans so that Anfield was empty, but the players had to keep playing. Then that would have been really devastating, not having the fans there. I think the very fact that we'd been through lockdown, that we've been denied football, that the fans had been denied seeing any football, the players had been denied playing football that at that point you take what you can get. Yeah, it would have been brilliant for the Kop, you know, for that to have been won in front of the Kop with everybody cheering and enjoying it and the players to have that moment of communion. But, you know, it's still brilliant that they won it without the people there. And the people were there. They just physically weren't there. They were emotionally tied. And, you know, the power of football is that, you know, there's hundreds of millions of people watching, not just, you know, around the planet, you know. What else situation do you get where you have a bloke in China and a bloke in Rio, you know, and some people in Detroit thinking the same thing as a Liverpool fan? Exactly, that's that moment, you know, jumping out of their seat at exactly that moment. You know, the power of the global spread of football is a unifying force.
So just finally then, I guess, is there any personal favourite moments that you have, either from the production of the movie or from the film itself? You've got a favourite scene, but maybe there's a hidden story or a funny story that you can tell us from how it was put together.
Yeah, my favourite moment of any film is when it finishes, actually, to be honest. You know, because you put so much effort in and you're always trying to get it right and there's time to step away. But, you know, there's lots of things. I you know, small things that I like. I love, you know, when Alisson picks up his drink and drinks it through the straw, you know, to us in front of us in the film, which I think is a lovely sort of sweet moment. I think, you know, Jurgen's interview at times is incredibly emotional. I'm trying to think of any funny stories from the filming. It's difficult to think of funny stories because COVID kind of takes the jokes out of it. You know, it's kind of everybody's distant and nobody is got a time. You know, time is different. So, you know, in terms of the film, I love the moment when everybody comes back together again, albeit not in the stadium, in the Jetta song "Coming Home," and everybody, you really have the sense of what it means to everybody. I think that's really moving.
So just finally then, could you tell everybody about how they can watch it, release dates and where to get it?
Well, The End of the Storm was made to be released in cinemas. Unfortunately, at the moment, there aren't any cinemas open, but there will be a chance to see it in cinemas down the line and in Australia. So now the film will be coming out digitally and on DVD on the 30th of November. So everybody gets a chance to watch it in the safety of their own homes and gets to, you know, hopefully have a great evening. This film's called The End of the Storm.
Yeah, not bad. Was a long, long storm. Great people tried it.
They blow Liverpool right out of the title picture.
So many people dream about our success. We have to make the next step.
Even though I wear the armband, there's so many other leaders throughout the dressing room.
Step it up, you.
I wanted to play for a club that lives and breathes for the fans.
بشجع ليفربول من 30 سنة.
I was 6 when we last won the league.
夺冠对于我们来说，真的就好像是一个。
It all starts here. You can never guess with this football club.
Fasten your seatbelt.
And Salah for Liverpool! Have a little bit of that!
I'm not the smartest person. I'm not a genius, so I cannot do it alone.
O gosto da derrota é amargo. Com certeza a gente quer viver o gosto da vitória.
I want us to be really focused on the things we can have influence.
Crossfield ball, and Mohamed Salah's arriving! Oh, that's beautiful! Mane! Oh, my word! It's Liverpool all over!
In the next moment, the world changed.
Are you afraid that your player can get exposed?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Morning. Very surreal, a bit crazy.
There were times when we didn't know exactly if we will play again.
E a gente vai voltar com esse avivamento, vai voltar com tudo.
It was motivation to put Liverpool back amongst the best teams in the world.
I've always tried to give back when people believe in you so much.
Je me suis dit que tout est possible dans la vie.
Liverpool back where they belong.
When you walk through a storm, that's the moment when you need support.